On today's episode of the Christian Indie Writers podcast, we're going to be discussing our how to set our New Year's goals and if we're even going to do that. So stay tuned. And welcome to the Christian Indie Writers podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on their journey toward publication. I am Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write Christian fantasy.
I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
Thank you for tuning in today to listen to this podcast. We are completely humbled by the fact that anyone listens besides ourselves. We usually tune ourselves out. So we really appreciate y'all being here. Let's hit our chat real quick. Those that are here live. Piper says, hi, everyone. Teresa is here as well. She says, good morning. Catherine Carroll is here. Good morning and Happy New Year. Thank you. Happy New Year to you too. Chavez says, hiya. Happy New Year. It is a new year and a new time for us to once again just thank everybody who listens, who shows up here live. If you've never listened to us live and you listen to us as a podcast, we appreciate you. We're so glad you're there. We would also invite you to come join us some Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern over on YouTube, where we have our live chat. It's a lot of fun. Meet some new people. But wherever you listen to us, please share the love, like and subscribe, hit every button possible, and help pass the word along to other Christian writers about this great community of people that come together every week and talk about writing and the Lord. So our favorite part of this podcast is our different segments. And one of the first segments we have is our What's Up. And I'm going to start today with Christina Catane. Christina Catane, what is up with you?
Well, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but I'm in a new location.
Yes.
My youngest child has left the nest. It is officially empty of children.
Wow.
Wow.
Somebody reminded me that the nest isn't empty if my husband and I are still here.
Is she saying that you're raising your husband, that he's a child? Is that what they're saying when they
I
said
don't think that's what they meant, but yeah. So I'm in my new, this is the old bedroom and now going to be my office. It is going to be completely transformed by next week because we're going to be doing some work on it. Those yellow walls are going to be gone and some other things. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. And I was watching the live coaching from Becca Syme this week.
Mhm.
And she made this statement that I am going to write on my wall. And it's she was talking about learner, which I'm number one learner, and she was talking about how you can be sure of your process. And she said the only way that learner can be sure of anything is by iteration, which basically means do it and do it and do it and keep doing it.
Mm.
So I'm gonna like iteration. I'm gonna like take the words from the Dory from Finding Nemo, where she just keep swimming, swimming.
Mhm.
I'm gonna put iteration in there somehow. like,
Just keep iterating.
yeah,
Is that a word?
because I have a tendency to say, "Oh, I need to learn something," and then the iterating stops,
Mm.
and the consuming of the theory begins. But consuming theory is not how I learn. I have to do. So I have to keep reminding myself of that because even though I know that, I keep tending to say, "Oh, I have to learn this first," and I don't. I just have to, because all of this stuff that I'm writing now in 10 years, I'm going to be going, ugh.
Everybody
That's when
does.
I was
Right.
learning.
Right.
And we learn by our mistakes. So I have to make as many mistakes as possible now.
I must
So
be the
I
smartest person in the world then, because
so
I've
I
been
can
making a
be a
lot of
genius
mistakes.
then.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, that's awesome. All right. I'm excited to see your office. I can't wait to see it done. I think it'd be done by next week.
Well, we're painting today, and I have wallpaper that I'm putting up.
Mhm.
It's peel and stick, so that should go pretty fast. I already have the curtains. I think so. I think it's
That's
going to be
awesome.
pretty close to done by next week.
That's exciting.
That's
And
really
my
awesome.
son and my son-in-law, my favorite son-in-law, and my favorite daughter are coming over at 11:30 today to help me, and I'm going to be hard at work holding the baby.
You'll be like, bring me some grapes and feed. I have the baby. Do as I say. Like, that's
Well, my
awesome.
son-in-law likes to paint, and he does
Mhm.
it. He gets paid to paint for people, so he's going to do the painting. And I have a knee problem right now, and my husband doesn't want me on the step ladder, so my daughter's going to do those parts.
Ah,
So we'll see what happens, but
exciting. I
I'll
will
have plenty of work to do.
next. And so my husband is sick.
Oh,
He has, I know we were sick for so much in December. He has a really bad upper respiratory infection. He's missed 2 days of work this week, which he never misses. Um, and the crazy thing is that like I've slept on the couch because I don't want to get sick again. So like I've been sleeping in the family room on the couch or in the recliner or whatever. And like my dogs, like it's just I can't sleep. First of all, it's uncomfortable. Second of all, I think my dogs are somewhere on the spectrum because something changes in their life and they just are like, ah, like everything just can't handle it. And so like I'm going on very little sleep. So I feel like today's episode is gonna be a little bit like when we do like the 11 o'clock at night episodes because I just am feeling kind of like that. But
yeah,
oh
I noticed. No
yeah,
offense.
I know, right? It's obvious that I haven't had much sleep. Like they just can't like something's different. Like my big puppy, she came walking at one point and I was laying on the couch and she just stood there and looked at me, breathing at me, and then like looking around. You could tell she's like trying to figure out why are you here? And then they wouldn't sleep, but they always sleep in the room, but they wouldn't. They kept coming out and sleeping with me because they're like, well, something's different. We're like, we'll just wait for you to move. And I don't know. But I forgot, I gotta tell something else. Last weekend, New Year's Eve weekend, um, kind of at the spur of the moment, we decided to go to Chicago with my girls. And I haven't
Nice.
posted any pictures yet. I'm still waiting to do the pictures, but I got to take the time and do that. But we had the best time in Chicago. If you've never been to Chicago, it's a great town. Like I love Boston, but part of me kind of feels like I might like Chicago better. I know that's crazy. I lived in Boston for 6 years and I love that town, but there's just something about Chicago that just feels very big city Midwestern style though. Just love it. So we had a great time. Went to the American Girl doll store, ate some deep dish pizza, walked around a whole lot. We took the bus. We've never done that before. Like my girls had a great time. So that's what we did. So that's
That
my what's
sounds
up.
awesome.
All right, Jamie, what's your what's up?
Well, I was gonna veer away from the like quotes from Stoics and compare it to Bible verses, but then it was just so much easier than the what's up question because I found myself wanting to talk about today's episode kind of stuff.
Oh,
So I'm gonna
yeah.
stick with that for just one more week at least. And this quote is from Epictetus. He says, "You become what you give your attention to."
Hmm.
And the Bible verse that comes to mind popped into my head because it was one of the Bible verse songs that my kids and I listened to when they were little. Set your affections on things above, not on things on the earth, for ye are dead and your life is hid. Your life is hid with Christ in God. So yeah, that's my share for today. Colossians 3, 2, and 3. That's where that is.
My mom had a thing hanging on our refrigerator all growing up that had another version of that same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It said garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this week on the news, I don't know if you guys watch. I don't watch it very often. I will put a Good Morning America or one of the other shows on just to kind of like make sure I'm not missing out if like the world exploded and I was just home doing my own thing. But they talked about social media and the effect on teenagers and children, and there's a direct correlation with depression, and it just cemented in me like you're right, garbage in, garbage out, and you are what you put, and I'm on my phone way too much, generally doing like work stuff or games, like when I'm just like waiting or whatever, and I could be doing other things. I know I could. But we took, hold on one second, sorry. See, I think I'm getting sick. We took away a cell phone for my oldest daughter, and we've just made this decision that our children are not going to have cell phones until they are adults. And that was a hard decision when we raised 3 other children and they had cell phones, but I can link every major issue or problem we had with our older kids growing up to we'll start with the cell phone in different ways. But and I just talked with another parent recently and they made the same decision too. So yeah, like for myself too, now having done that, now I have to look at myself, like what garbage in and garbage out am I doing in my own life? So
My
I appreciate you.
19-year-old who just moved out, when his sister gave birth in November, he said, I don't know anything about parenting. So the only parenting advice that I will give you is don't let them on the internet.
Mm,
And that was coming from a 19-year-old.
It's
mhm.
really interesting to hear the different takes on that. And I'm just going to share mine in case it's helpful to somebody. Because how that was helpful to me is that I've been thinking about the difference between pain and suffering.
Mhm.
And you can experience pain, and the reality of pain is pain, but suffering for the most part is a choice. And I've been
Mhm.
really wrestling with that reality that
Mhm.
pain is pain, but suffering is a choice. And if you put your attention on the fact that, like, oh, I'm having pain, oh, I'm suffering, well, then you're somebody who is suffering. And so it's just like that's where my mind went with it. So it's just really
Mm.
interesting that that the interpretation can be so different. It reminds me of how we take our sprint prompts and come up with different
Yeah.
outcomes.
Before we move on, I have to get to at least one comment, and I missed it a second ago. Piper says, "What? Not cool, Jennifer." LOL. My comment about how I might like Chicago more than Boston. Okay.
Mm.
So to be fair, I've not been to Boston in many, many years. So maybe I need to take a trip out there. Maybe I need to remind myself of how awesome Beantown is and what drew me there in the first place, right? I think that sounds like a road trip time.
I'm going to
So,
make a really unpopular statement and say that I love New York City.
oh, that is unpopular.
But the Manhattan part,
Oh,
not
I've never been to, yeah.
like down like the main part, like Broadway.
I think that I would like New York City because I like city energy, period. So
Mhm.
I think that I think any big city would more or less impress me in a similar way.
And you grew up in Metro Detroit. So,
Mhm.
like, the city is a different for you. And living in Boston for 6 years, like, it does I agree. I love city energy, but I also love my country. Like, I love having, like, the quiet and I have trees and a big like, we have an acre with a pole barn. Like, I love all that. But you're right. Like, I think that, like, I love city energy. I just don't like New York City energy. I know it's
It's
different. It's different, you
For me,
know?
it's like airport energy. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? There's something to do, like, because city energy, people are on their way to do things,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
the industrious little ants kind of thing.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Piper thinks we should do a road trip too. I agree. So, okay, moving on because that's what we're here for. People don't want to just hear us blabber on and on and on, right?
They
That's
came to the wrong place then.
we came to the wrong place. All right, so today's topic is setting New Year goals. Now, every year we have done something along these lines. Some years we've been very specific about like outlining goals and like that, but this year we're just going to kind of talk about setting New Year goals, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember specifically when we were planning this meeting, we were like, well, why don't we were going to write down, where are you at, Tina? Where are you at, Jen? And then we said, well, why don't we just have that conversation live
Mhm.
instead of writing it all down right now and then regurgitating it all. So you're welcome for not regurgitating.
Mm-mm.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So do you want to kick us off? Like, can I ask a question that I feel like will kick us off like
Yes,
appropriately?
absolutely.
Are either of you like really doing specifically goal setting stuff? And if you are, you should probably go first.
No.
No.
All right. I think we're kind of all in the same place. It's really interesting. Tell me more, either Jen or Tina. I don't care who.
Well, we were gonna start with me. You were gonna because the way that we started this conversation during our meeting was you'd said, "Well, Jen, how are you doing? Where are you at?"
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Let's talk about that. So here's how I'm doing. I'm doing better mentally in January than I was in December. This holiday season was rough. As those of you that are just tuning in, I lost my mother this last year. My mother and I were very close, but she had also battled Alzheimer's and had gotten really bad. The
I'm
past
sorry.
year.
So like she passed away. Just trying to figure out like how many first. So you had
Mm.
first Thanksgiving, you had first Christmas,
Yes.
you had first like 4th of July. Like, did you get through all of them, or you still got a few coming up
We still have a
first?
few coming up. Yeah, her
Yeah.
birthday is next month, and
Oh, yeah.
so
Okay.
Easter was a big deal to her.
Mm.
So yeah, so I'm still. I mean, clearly, I'm still dealing with it, and like she and I were very close. I'm very close with my parents, and so like mentally, I'm better. My dad said to me at one point during the holidays, he's like, I feel like I would just be better. He said this, that he would just feel better if he could just stay home on Christmas and not acknowledge that it's Christmas and then move on. And I'm
Aw.
like, Dad, you can't do this. So then, of course, I was like, well, you need to mourn however you need to mourn, but your grandkids, think about them. And so he's like, I know, that's why I'm not going to do it. And then, it was a rough Christmas. And then I'm not even kidding. Right after Christmas, like the 26th, 27th, my dad was a new person. Like he probably would have been better if he could have just like gone back home, closed the doors, not put any decorations up, and just act like it's a regular day and then move on. But kudos to him for not doing that because he still has grandkids that expect him to, show up for them. So anyway, so it really affected my writing and my editing and everything else. And I just wasn't in a headspace for that. But it's gave me a lot of time to really think about, what do I want? Life is short. What do I want? And before I was at this, like, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this. And I kind of had a plan from the very beginning. I always had this like plan laid out. There's
Yeah.
4 books. And I'm at the end of this first series. I already have the next series outlined. And I'm at the end of this and I just can't finish it. I just can't finish the editing. And I know what one of the problems is. Every time I open up Sarah's book and I go to edit, I see my mom. And I didn't realize how much of the character of Sarah was influenced by my mother. My mother's experiences growing up in the parsonage, my mother's vocal abilities, my mother's ability to play the piano without, like, she played by ear. Just everything, so many things about Sarah. My mom did not go through the same exact experiences, and I don't want to get too far into the story and give things away, but like, I'm not saying that mom went through all those experiences, but there's so much of the book that's my mom. So that's been hard for me to face that. And the fact that like she's never going to get to read it, is rough for me. All right. So for going forward, all right. So that's one of the reasons why it's been hard for me. I've also came to a realization that there's another thing that has been hurting me and my creativity. And I've hinted at it before, that I have been working on marketing and specifically Amazon ads. And I've
Yeah.
been, since April of last year, I have been, headfirst into it, really working at it. And it has literally sucked the joy out of me. And it has put me at sometimes even depression, I feel like, because I have worked hard at it and I have gotten no traction. And I think there's a lot of reasons why, but part of the reason could just be that the formula that I'm using, the way I'm doing it, may not work for me. Lots of people post about how much money they're making and I'm not going to say what program it is, just because like I don't have a problem with the program. Yeah, unless I discover that there are teaching. I guess I'll have to compare it, but I think that I need to take a break from marketing and get back to those first years when I was writing the novella, when I was writing, those first stories. And it was exciting to me. And I loved writing and I couldn't wait for it to get a book into someone's hands. I got to get that back somehow. How do I get that joy of, I can't wait for this book to get in someone's hands? Because I don't have that right now. And I love Sarah's story down deep inside of me. I think people are going to love it too. But I've lost that joy and I don't know how to get it back. So I guess my goal this year is kind of taking a step back and maybe getting rid of some things in my writing career I haven't done social media in forever. I'm probably not going to be rushing back to it. I'm going to keep the ads going and put minimal work into it just cuz I've come so far, but I'm not going to really worry about it. I'm just going to try to get back to that Jen that was excited to go to a writing retreat, was excited to like let her friends read this chapter. I can't wait to see, you can I make you cry in this chapter, Jamie? And, like just to get back to that person. I want to find her again. And I honestly am not sure how, but that's my goal, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Before I respond to you, I want to read Piper's response. Jen, I had to do that. Take a break from marketing. I just did a marketing coaching session, and I am planning to do just a low level set of ads to the series and move on. And I hear you loud and clear. I think it's the age-old conundrum of trying to turn a profit off of your art. And obviously we are not the first people ever to experience these feelings. And I don't like to hear that the marketing stuff has kind of taken some of the joy out of you. Are you thinking like the new series is like, do you have any sort of like way forward, or are you still going to mull on that until Friday? Like, are you thinking starting to write book 1 would do it? Like, do you have any plan to like quote unquote fix it? You know what I mean?
I need to like just get the 4th book edited. I just need to get it done. Like, so I released the first book of this series February 14th of 2019. If I could release it on February 14th of this year, I think I would feel pretty good about it, but I don't know. That would be really hard. So I just got to get it out and then focus just on that. And then after I get that off my back, then I look at the next series. And then I really start to decide, I love that series. I love those characters. I've been writing that world like during sprints forever. But like, is that what is going to bring me joy? Or do I need to move over to contemporary? Or I don't know. I don't want to take a break from writing, but that's in God's hands. I really want to really pray about what he has me doing in this next like segment of my life, really. So
let me just go ahead. Oh, Catherine
Oh.
Carroll, go ahead. Jen, I've had the same experience over the last couple of years. Focusing on marketing does suck the joy from writing. Praying you can get back to that. Teresa, that's so encouraging, Jen. Thank you for sharing. Praying for you and continued healing this year.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, the other thought I had just went out of my head. I like what our chatters had to say more.
Sorry.
Anyway, Tina, did you have any feedback or thoughts while you were listening?
Well, yeah, and I think part of it might be your grieving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wouldn't dismiss that part of it. You're
Yeah.
grieving, and so part of the process is not having the same joy of things that used to bring you joy, and that might pass as you go through the grieving process. So I would just give yourself a lot of grace.
Yeah. I think there's a wisdom in that. I still struggle with thoughts of my mom in the nursing home. I think I'll have a moment where I think that she's still there and I know she's not. And then I start to feel guilty, like I didn't do enough. Yeah. I look back at that part of my life and I feel like I was exhausted for doing so much and being there all the time. And like, it was just mentally and emotionally and physically exhausting. But at the same time, now that it's over, it's like I would do it all over again if I could spend more time with her, even though at the time it really wasn't her. She was gone almost really at that point. So yeah.
Right.
So I think there's wisdom there. Catherine agrees. She says, amen, Tina. Grieving takes longer than we think it should. That's true.
I think it's really not ever over. My dad passed in 2008, and I still have these moments where I think, oh, Dad would know that.
Yeah.
I'll call him, and then I'll be like, no, wait.
Those are the worst. Those are the worst. There's so many times in my life that I'm like, I want to ask my mom because my mom would know that, or my mom would help me with that, yeah.
And so, but it gets easier. It doesn't ever go completely away, but it gets easier.
Yeah. And I find strength in Hebrews. The 12th chapter starts off with, so since we were surrounded by such a host of witnesses, but the thing that's most important about that verse is you have to read chapter 11 first. By faith, Abraham, by faith,
Hall of faith.
The hall of faith. And he finished that reading that chapter, and then the next line is, so since we are surrounded by such a host of witnesses, let us run the race. And like, of course, it's gonna jump out of my head the entire scripture now, but I know that like I know that I'll see my mom again someday. I know that she's still cheering me on, even in a way better than she could in this past year. And so it is. I know it's a lot of grieving, but I also don't want to dismiss the fact that I've had time to really mull over the choices I've made with my time and putting it into marketing that I think will, I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to completely walk away from it, but I don't think I'm going to be making, the money that other people are looking at making, other people that are showing that they're making. I'm not going to make that at this point. Now, does it mean in the future I won't? No, but I think that it's just time to get back to finding the joy of the writing and let the money come when it comes. So that's my goal. Find the Jen from 2019. That's who I'm looking for this year.
Well, and you're never going to find her because she's changed.
Yeah.
You need to find the new Jen who can have new passion and new joy.
Yeah. That's very true. That's actually ultimately what I want.
Yeah.
Because the old Jen, there's life experiences that she didn't have that I have now that I would not give up.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
No problem.
What about you, Jamie? Let's talk about, do you have?
I don't know. I have a very similar bunch of stuff that I could say to what you said. So I guess I'm glad that you went first because I can sort of like, gosh, I could have talked this whole hour just myself. But the issue for me is wrestling with what most people would call productivity culture, because I am really a big believer in setting realistic goals and meeting them and making promises to myself and keeping them. And a lot of people are like, oh, productivity culture is so toxic. But it's something I'm a fan of saying, if you want to eat peaches, you can't carry your peach pit around. You got to plant it. You got to do the work. If you want to eat peaches, you have to plant the seed and then water it and then watch it grow and then harvest peaches. And then, I go around and around with myself. Well, or you could just put that peach pit in your pocket. And then when you fall down dead, peaches will grow anyway.
Right.
So how much of this is really in my control? How much of this is up to me to set goals and crush them? It's like, do I ever want the novel published or don't I? If you want it done, do the work and do it. And this taskmaster, like, I can't say that's the wrong way to look at it. There are a bunch of people who are like, never set goals, just have good intentions. And it's like, but then really, you really expect to like eventually get there? People with weight loss goals know better than to spend every single day eating Krispy Kreme donuts because cumulative work over time gets results. So we know this as sort of like a law of nature or whatever, that you have to do the work to get the outcome you want. But then it's like, maybe I just don't know what I want. So that's where it's all swirly for me right now. What kind of goal to even set? What makes sense, And to further complicate it, we're talking about art. We're talking about, I always liken my writing to a pot on a potter's wheel, even though I've not ever had clay on a wheel. I cannot wait till the day that I do take some classes to do that. But I'm forever molding and shaping this piece. And then when it's done, it's done. It's not like I can, you can't tame the muse, to put it in a very secular way. You can't like control, I remember growing up and watching shows like Murder, She Wrote or whatever movie. And there's always the author who has a publisher calling and saying, I need those pages. When are you going to give me those pages? And the author's like, whenever I feel like it. And I would always just be like, sit down and do the work. But now I understand that, like, if you're not in the right place, I don't know if it's mental, I don't know if it's spiritual, it's probably both, whatever. If you're grieving, if you're sick, if whatever, your muse has gone to Bermuda, you can't do the work. But then you turn around and you look at like some of the famous 20 books people who, well, you can write 900 words in 15 minutes. Why don't you have 12 novels out?
Right.
So as long as there's somebody out there killing it and crushing it, you feel like you ought to be killing it and crushing it. How do you figure out what's
Mhm.
right for you?
Yeah, I feel this so much of everything of what you're saying. And I've actually even thought like maybe it's time for me to invest in Becca Syme's like a coaching so that they can take a look at my strengths and figure out. But I do think that for me personally, I'm still in the morning stage. And I think for you too, Jamie, I think that there's so many similarities between we're going through two different things, but we're both morning and we're at different stages and like that. And so I don't know. I would hate to like go and get coaching but not be ready for it, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
still mourning.
As I
So
was going through some of this with a good friend of mine, it kind of a light bulb went off. It's like I have to think about it like I'm sick. If I were physically sick, if I
Mhm.
had something like that going on, I'd be like, well, of course I'm not, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But for some reason, I don't have the grace for myself,
Yes.
for the other.
That is 100%. I see that 100% in you, that you don't ever give yourself grace. I agree. And Piper made a good point too. I've heard you say this before. Comparison is a thief of joy. It really is.
I'm
And
not
so
talking about joy. I'm talking about getting stuff done. And if there are people out there who are getting stuff done, doesn't that mean that I could if I would stop making excuses?
I don't
Stop
think
making excuses and do the work. Stop making excuses and do the work. That's at war completely with, well, everything will be done in its time. And it's like, I know that the reality is you don't get results if you don't put in the hours, right? So it's like
Mhm.
these things war, these things battle.
Mhm.
I can write 900 words in 15 minutes. I can.
Mhm.
I don't write scads of novels. Is it a problem with what I want to do? Is it a problem with discipline? It must be that I just don't want to.
I feel like I am not equipped to answer this question, but I do feel like it is a strengths thing. I do think that there is probably something there because I know what you can do writing wise, but again, like you're mentioning, like there's this battle between the like the the I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but there's this battle between that and the artist in you, right? And
Yeah.
so there has to be somewhere that they meet, but that's gonna be a different spot for each one of us.
Yeah.
Like, we know because you guys knows me well enough and have known me long enough. Where that battle meets for me is much closer to the marketing area than it is to the artist area. I've always been mindset of making money off this. I've always had a business plan and like in that way, which is why the whole advertising thing I think was so depressing to me because I was I was doing everything I could I had this plan and I was making things happen. I was doing it. And this is outside of my control.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's
Mhm.
why I hit it, so, but I think that where those two things meet is in a different place and you just haven't found that yet. Or you found it, but you're not willing to give yourself enough grace to be like, this is where I'm at. This is where it
Yeah,
works for me.
well, yes, because the issue is, I came to this idea of writing um with just like stories that I want to tell, only
Yeah.
to be told that the way to make money is to do this and this and this and this, a bunch of stuff I didn't want to do.
Right. Right.
So there goes the ideal of this is an income. So what am I
Mhm.
doing this for?
So what if this year you just got back to the original reason that you came to writing?
That was
And
to make money, and I
oh,
don't want to do what it takes to make money.
I see. Okay. But you also just said that you had stories you wanted to tell, but you thought that they would match up. And
I
you
thought
found that
that
they
they would
don't.
make money. Yeah.
Right. And so they don't match up. So the one that doesn't make you happy is the making money, right? You don't want to do that. Okay. Then why don't you take this year and give yourself enough grace to just write stories that you want to tell and see where that takes you?
Right. Well, I'm not just going to be like, "No, I'm not doing that," or "No, that's a bad idea." But what I'm saying is like that's kind of where I've been, but then like how do you balance that with setting goals and like I don't want it to take 3 years to get this book to market. I
Right.
don't want that.
Right. We're like in the
But
same
at
boat with
yeah,
that.
but
Yeah.
at a chapter a month, that's what we're looking at.
Yeah. Okay, so what if this is not the book that comes out next? What if you are still being productive and you're doing something, but you just gotta get this book off your back? Is that how you're feeling?
No, it's not that. It's about the productivity and doing the work. And you can't do good work by forcing yourself to sit down and do it in my economy.
In your account, yes.
Like the way that like I don't produce good work by forcing myself to sit down and work every day for 20 minutes. Like that
Mhm.
doesn't just turn on the part of me that does really awesome stuff.
Mhm.
You understand? Like it's
Yep.
not controllable.
Right.
It's that thing that used to frustrate me, like the artist temperament, I guess you would call it. Like you
Mhm.
can't, I mean, I guess it's like digest that piece of cheesecake right now. Well, what do you mean? How do you even what? And create some writing right now is like what? You know what I'm saying?
I do, and as you're talking, I'm feeling like we were kind of like hitting on strengths today. I
Yeah.
feel like the strategist in you
Mhm.
is is overtaking the artist in you because as a because it's not my top 5, it's like number 6 though. Strategy is pretty high for me too. And like to know like I gotta do this and this. And you're trying to I feel like you're trying to come up with this formula or that you think that you like you see this formula as it's supposed to be, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that just because there is that formula doesn't mean that that's what you're supposed to be doing or that that was is the best way to get what you're so maybe it's just that you need to strategize and find a new formula that makes you happy and then let the money come after that. Like, just like I'm gonna do. Like, I could keep pushing forward with this advertising. I could figure it out. I could, but I discovered that I don't have any joy in it, and I need to
Yeah.
stop until I go back and I find the joy. And I'm probably not gonna make any money this year. And you guys know a few years ago, I talked about how I have this 10-year plan so that my husband can retire and blah, blah, blah. You know what? If I don't reach that 10-year plan, I can go get a job as a secretary somewhere and bring in enough money. And I don't mind doing that. I'm working at my church right now as a secretary and I find great joy in it because the strategist in me and my other strengths, I'm like able to like, there's a lot of things that it speaks to for me. So, I can make money, whatever. I'd rather find the joy in what I'm doing. And I feel like that's the missing piece for you is that like your strategy is super strong and you feel like you need to strategize this, but maybe the strategy needs to change. And you need to go back to giving yourself grace if that strategy doesn't match up with what the world is telling you should be the strategy, or even what you right now see as what you think is what you need to do. Maybe it will take 3 years for that book to come out, but maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe there's a reason why the book hasn't come out yet, and maybe
Oh,
there's something else.
I know that's true.
Do you know what I mean? And maybe, like, there's a reason why it's gonna take 3 years, and if that's God's plan, then you need to take a deep breath and just totally jump feet first into his plan and see where he leads you. So, I don't know if that helps, but that's kinda what I'm seeing right now.
I appreciate that. This is a good episode. Where are you at, Tina?
Well,
Let's get the chat
Oh
real
yeah.
quick. Shell says motivation is more fickle muse than creativity. I've been struggling with this too in many areas of life, not just writing. Sarah, the late night coffee mom, I love the name, says, I hear that. She says, I have to constantly balance my creative self with my business mind. And she agreed with Piper as well about that she does the Becca's. Piper said that, Jen, I do the level on Becca's Patreon that isn't a ton of money, but gets me some more coaching. Okay. All right,
yeah,
Tina.
that's a good transition into mine because I do the $25 a month Patreon
Mhm.
of Becca Sign, and you get once a month you get a live coaching call, which you're in a small group. There's about 5 other people, and a
But
lot
they're
of
in
times,
your strengths, right? They're like in
well, not
similar.
necessarily, but what
Oh, okay.
happens is you pick a coach that has similar strengths to you,
Okay.
and that's what pretty much everyone else does also. So you end up in a group
Uh,
with people with
Gotcha.
similar strengths to you, and then you
Mhm.
not only get to ask your questions, but you get to listen to their questions too and
Mhm.
hear them being coached. And so there's something about that that really is helpful. And so I've been doing a lot of work on myself. Um, this year, and along with the strengths coaching. And I have discovered that, well, Terry, I don't remember who said it the other day in the live coaching call, but they said intellection interruption rage is real. I'm going to write that on my wall when I'm done with my office, because it is real. And I have completely blocked everything on all my phone. My husband can't call me like from 8 to 12 every day in the morning. Nothing. I can't go on the internet. I don't go on social media. I don't even have my phone on for my husband to call me. And now I'm going to make this office so it's going to be, I'm putting stuff on the windows so I can't see through them.
Oh, wow.
It's called rabbit goo, and people put it in their bathroom windows, so it's
Uh-huh.
clear, but it has a pattern,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't see through it. So like I am completely making my environment interruption free as much as possible.
That's
And
awesome.
I also know
Mhm.
that I have failed. Every time I have tried to make a goal for myself, I have failed. And somebody with similar strengths than me said, the fastest way for me to fail is for tell me I have to make a goal. And so what Becca Symes said was, people that can do that, people that can say, okay, this is my goal and I'm going to reach it and be successful at it, have high focus. And so there's certain strengths in high focus that allow them to do that. So what you have to do when you don't have high focus is you have to try to use what you do have to manufacture what it is that makes them do that naturally. I don't know if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And so Terry Schott, who's one of the main coaches there, said that he's like that. And so he just keeps in mind that every little decision that he makes every day is either taking him further away from what he wants or taking him closer to what he wants.
Hmm.
And so he takes it a decision at a time instead of having this goal out here. Of course, there's a target that he's
Mhm.
trying to get to, but to say, I'm going to have this done by this time kind of goal, it doesn't work for him. And it doesn't work for me either. I know that because
Mm.
I'm 54 years old and I can look back at the pattern of my life and I can see that I have never ever been able to keep a goal that I set for myself. Now, if I have an outside goal, like a boss telling me you have to get this done, or a class that something's due, I can do that. But my strategy's high enough that I can't fool it. Because strategy can't be fooled into believing that you're going to do something when you know you're not going to do it.
Mhm.
And so I'm going
Hmm.
to write on my wall, right where I can see it, the thing that Terry said is he keeps in his mind 1,000 words a day equals 4 books a year.
That's crazy. I mean, it's
Uh,
true, but it's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and if iteration is what I need right now, because I haven't written enough books to really understand my process,
Mhm.
then those are the two things that I'm going to put. I'm going to put like a dry erase thing right where I look, and it's going to say those two things on it.
Mm.
1,000 words a day equals 4 books a year, and iteration, iteration, iteration. And that's what I need to focus on. I don't have high focus, but so those little choices that I make from 8 to 12 when I'm in my cave every day, like those are going to be, I'm going to look up there and I'm going to say, I need to iterate and I need to write words. And so if I just write this year and I write 4 books and I don't publish anything, then that's fine. I'll publish
Mhm.
them, next year or whatever.
Right.
But I just need to. That's what I'm focusing on. That's what my little decisions that I make every day are pulling me towards. So it's not like a goal like what Jamie would set, where she'd say, I want to write this many words by this date and publish this book. It's more like, here's like the general direction that I want to go in. I want to iterate and I want to write words. And so it's going to be little decisions that I make while I'm sitting at my desk between 8 and 12. And oh my gosh,
What I love about this.
something's chewing on my wall. I'm
Oh, wow.
We've
What
had an
I
issue with raccoons. I think there's a raccoon in my wall.
one's gonna just come like falling through the ceiling on your desk.
That's happened before.
Um, that's funny because Jamie just sent me a meme this morning of a raccoon.
That
which is-
raccoon is, I don't know, something is chewing on something. Just freaked me out. Okay, go ahead.
What I love about this is that if we were to go back and watch old episodes, your plan has changed completely differently, but this plan is more fitting. Like, because longer we do this, the more we know ourselves, right? As artists, as writers, as businesswomen, as godly women, we just know ourselves better. And your plan is always evolving to fit you and who you know you are. So I think that's great. Let me ask you ladies a question, and this will be the last question. And we have other chat that's been going on, but we're running out of time. So if you are listening to this, you're going to want to come back over to YouTube and watch the chat replay at least. We've got some great people over here. But if you might have noticed that the lottery is kind of like big again around here. If you were to win the lottery, what would you do with your writing career after that? Would your choices be different than the choices we're making today? And you don't have to answer that. But I've been thinking on this. I don't think I'm going to win the lottery. But if I had won the lottery, if I win it, would I still be sitting down and trying to get my books out? And I absolutely, my choices, I think that I would. But I don't think I would worry at all about marketing. I don't know that I'd ever worry again about selling my books. I would still be writing them. So that's been a kind of another aha moment for me that I'm not going to win the lottery. So I do want to sell my books. But maybe that's why my joy is being sucked out, because like I've been focusing too much on the wrong thing. So just throwing that out there for those of us that are all struggling with this.
If I won the lottery, I would pay somebody to do the marketing.
Yes, that's true. I think I would too.
And then I would just focus on the writing. I would pay somebody to do the editing and all that, book covers, all of it. And I would just do the writing.
Yes. Love that. One last thing from our chatters. Shell says, my dad always says, blessed are the flexible, for they will bend and not break. I absolutely love that. All right. So moving on to our favorite part of the all hearts clear. We good to move on? I mean, we could talk about this for probably another hour, and we might after the show is over.
We're going to talk about it for another hour next week, aren't we?
I think we are.
Yeah.
We are going to go a step further in it. So make sure you tune in next week. But our favorite time of our episode is our feeding of the backs, which is a time for us to give feedback on something we just wrote. Before the podcast starts every week, we write for 15 minutes at the same time. We do it together on the same prompt, and then we don't edit it. We don't look at it again. We just come on live because we're crazy, and we share it live, raw and unedited, and then we give each other only positive feedback because it's not edited. So I'm going to pick on you first, Jamie. Tell us what the prompt is, and then share with us what you wrote.
Today we had 5 words that we were supposed to include in our story. I don't think I used a single one, but I was inspired by the first word, shy. So we had 5 words: shy, voyage, repeat, step, and account. And those were our 5-word prompt. That was our 5-word prompt for today. And here's what I wrote. She stepped behind her mother, and I was certain she believed I could no longer see her. I grinned and grabbed a kid's menu and added it to the stack of regular menus in my other hand. Right this way. It was a bit of a journey through the dining room to get to the table we'd prepared for the party, and I tried to imagine how enormous the restaurant must seem to one so petite. Do you want a high chair? I asked Mom. No, a booster, please. Sure thing. But when I came back, the moppet was on her mom's lap, thumb in her mouth, her other arm extended up behind her and disappearing behind Mom's cascade of beachy waves. My kiddos used to pull my hair, I said, blinking back tears. Yeah, Mom grinned but rolled her eyes. This one here likes to kind of knead the back of my neck. Like a little kitty, I said, grinning down at those big blue eyes. Yep, just like a little kitty, Mom agreed. The girl smiled around her thumb. Do you want, I faltered, as I sometimes do when my usual offer of drinks spiel runs into an obstacle, imagined or otherwise. Some parents, I had learned, would love nothing more than a glass of wine, while others were offended by the mere mention of alcoholic drink. Care to have some lemonade or chocolate milk? It was a risk to ask the child directly, I knew, but the vibe I'd felt coming off of Mom hinted that she'd appreciate us making friends. The little girl averted her gaze and then turned bodily as far as she could around in what I recognized as a failed attempt to bury her face in Mom's abdomen. And I winced, imagining Mom's discomfort at taking an elbow to the ribs, but Mom took it all in stride. Chocolate milk actually sounds heavenly, she said, distracted by the menu. I paused for only a moment before saying right away and darting away from the table. I'd never served an adult-sized portion of chocolate milk in this particular restaurant. I wasn't even sure how I should ring it up. I didn't care, though. This woman was going to get her chocolate milk, and that little girl was going to enjoy her evening out as far as I had any control over the matter. I returned with the drink to discover an older couple had arrived. They weren't grandparent old, so I assumed aunt and uncle. They spoke to each other as they tried to determine where to sit. Mom kept her eyes on our menu, even as she thanked me for the milk. Anything for the little one? I ventured. What? Oh, no, I've got something for her. She'll probably have a grilled cheese or something, but later. Don't order it now. Okay, no worries, I said, then danced around the couple who were still removing outerwear and ticking off names of their dining companions as they tried to determine where to sit. This one's going to be tricky, I thought to myself as I preemptively began filling glasses with ice water. And that was it.
Oh, I love when you write characters like this. Love like their perspective and then their description of other characters in the setting. Like it's almost like Inception. Like, have you seen that movie? Like, it's a dream within a dream. It's like you're not the narrator is a person. So you as the writer aren't describing the characters. The person that you're writing is described. And I just love that you have you're really talented when you write things like that.
I appreciate that, Jen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the this point of view of the waitress and then her observing of the people that come in and the so like the different personalities and the different ways that people act. It's like people watching through somebody else's eyes.
Yes.
It's really cool.
And it's not just Jamie describing these people. It is Jamie writing this character who is describing these people. And it's just, it's very well done. Like if you're not a writer and you aren't used to like dissecting other people's writing either, you may just read this and be like, oh, that's a nice little story. But like, we've done this enough that I see the nuance and then the difference, and you're very good at it. So
I really appreciate that. I was not super impressed with this piece, so I'm glad that it was enjoyable, at least to listen to.
Oh yeah.
Appreciate that.
Piper says, agreed, Jen. I love her observations of the people and thoughts about her job and the people. Shell says, so sweet, Jamie. Agree with Jen. Great personality in the characters and narrator. Teresa says she loves it.
Thanks, guys. I love Friday.
It's your favorite day of the week. All right, I will go next. I did not write in the Widows of the West world, but I did visit another world that I've written in before. So Marnie is back, but we don't get very deep into it. So I wasn't writing very fast today. So, okay. My computer's making noises. I've been having tech issues all day. I just want to make sure it's not like shutting down or something.
Oh, we don't hear it if that helps.
Okay. All right. Bon voyage, the shy college-age boy said on repeat as each person took their first step onto the gangway. Marnie felt for the kid in his too small white dress shirt, the neck of which was far too small to button and would have laid open had the too short tie he was wearing not been there to save the day. Clearly a relic from the guy's high school years pulled from the back of the closet for this job. First day? She asked as she approached her turn at the ramp. Yep, he said quickly without looking at her. Bon voyage. Yep. Marnie stopped. Where are you from? His cheeks reddened. Wisconsin. Bon voyage, he repeated, clearly hoping she'd move on. Ah, another Midwesterner. Wait until you tell Uncle Clem you found another one like you. Marnie ignored Mr. Boss, who had somehow appeared out of nowhere and cut the line to stand behind her. Was he going to goad her all night? Being trapped on a booze cruise trip around Boston Harbor with coworkers that barely acknowledged her presence was going to be bad enough. She didn't need Mr. High and Mighty poking fun at her all night. She offered a smile to the college kid. I'm from Michigan. Don't worry, you're going to love Boston. Most people, she said, pointedly looking over her shoulder, are really nice. She moved up the gangway and stopped behind the throng of people waiting to board the board. Waiting to board the ship, it should say. Hey now, Mr. Boss said huskily in her ear. There's no account to treat me that way. Where's your Midwest hospitality? 3, 2, 1.
Yay! No, it was really good because the the guy having the kids like
That's my favorite part. Like,
yes.
I had to fit Mr. Boss in there somehow.
I
But yeah.
couldn't help but picture that guy from TikTok or Instagram or whoever, the guy from Wisconsin.
Oh,
Have
the
you
Charlie
seen him?
Barron
Oh,
guy?
Charlie Barons. I love that guy. Manitowoc Minute. I
Yeah.
love him.
Oh,
Yeah. If you're
man.
not from the Midwest, you need to go watch Charlie Barons because he's basically sums up the Midwest in every little thing he does.
He's
Yeah.
hilarious.
He is
I
very
just
funny.
love that this poor kid is like tasked to say bon voyage to these people. And you're just kind of like, what kind of corporate decision is this? Is he supposed to be French? Is this New Orleans? Why does he have to say bon voyage? And so I'm immediately like, this poor guy. And I could tell that Marnie is also pretty amused.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so yeah, very good. I really appreciate
And
it.
he was thinking if he just keeps saying it, she'll go away. Don't talk to me. Just move.
But we've
This is
all
not in the manual.
right. And I was trying to write it, and I probably could finesse it better if it wasn't a sprint, but I was trying to write it in a way that, like, just the fact that his shirt fits him the way that it does tells you how old he is. Like,
Mhm.
the college boys, they grow, like, they don't grow much in high school, but then all of a sudden college is where, like, they kind of shoot up. But, like, you don't need a dress shirt very often in college, right? So then you go to put it on. Like, I've seen so many kids, quote unquote, they're kids to me because I'm so old. Like, and you could just tell their age because I'm like, that shirt dude is from high school. You need to go shopping and buy you something that fits right now. So yeah. So I'm glad
That's
wasn't a change.
great. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
All right. So Piper says, yes, a cruise around Boston Harbor. Yep. That we call them booze cruises. Like, they are fun. Like, I love just being out on the water, especially when you live in the city for so long. Getting out on the water just feels so good. Like, it's kind of like your version of the country when you're there. So Piper says, I want to hear more of the event. Me too. Like, I never even thought about sending her on a cruise, and I can't wait to write this now. So Shell says, fun interaction, Jen. You got to write the whole cruise scene. So many bad things. Yes. If you've ever been on a booze cruise, like, they call it that for a reason. People get so hammered, and it is like, it can be turned into a complete mess, right? But people still do it. Teresa says, he whispered in her ear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's like right
Mhm.
there. Yeah. So
Mhm.
I'm trying to write him in a way that he is so annoying, but at the same time you're rooting for him, for her to finally like turn around and say, like him, so. All right. Thanks, guys. That's fun. That was fun. That was fun to get back to that world. So.
Yeah. That was fun for sure.
All right, Tina, let's hear yours.
Okay. This didn't end up where I thought it was going to when I started.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
But I do think I got most of the words in.
Mm.
She was shy, kept to dark corners, and the empty places left when people. Oh, I gotta make this smaller. I'm sorry.
Oh, but I like that. The empty
I made it-
places left. Ooh.
I made it big so I could read it, and then it cut off the sentences. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
She was shy, kept to dark corners, and the empty places left when people gathered in groups. She always walked a step or two behind. She never raised her voice. In fact, she didn't speak much at all. The brown of her clothes served as a kind of camouflage, making her disappear. Nothing in her appearance caused anyone to take notice of her, and I suspected it was all by design. I'd been watching her from the moment she stepped onto the ship. She'd slipped in behind an older couple, making it appear as if she were their daughter. However, I'd come to find she had no connection to them at all. In fact, she didn't appear to have any connections on this voyage. All the seats at the table where she ate were full of loud and raucous people. They were all too full of themselves and the things they wanted to say to notice that she never spoke a word, just ate her meal and watched their antics with eyes that betrayed a highly intelligent mind behind the thick horn-rimmed glasses that I suspected were more for show than utility. Somebody sat beside me, and I turned to find Jack in his khaki shorts and Hawaiian shirt, elbows on the table, bright red drink with a purple umbrella in his hand. Don't you think you should take this assignment a little more seriously? I asked. Don't you think you shouldn't take it so seriously? He replied. The sucking sounds through the tiny straw as he took a sip of his drink made my skin crawl, a shiver slithering up my spine. You stick out like a sore thumb, Jack said. Try to blend in a little more. At least pretend to be having a good time. I shot him an annoyed glance, then picked up the menu card, pretending to read it as our target walked past with her head down. But I saw it out of the corner of my eye when she looked right at me over the top of her horn rims. I think she just made us, I say in dismay.
Oh, Tina.
I want these to be guardian angels. That's what I want them to be.
Yes.
I know
Yes.
it's probably not what you had in mind, but
I had nothing
really-
in mind. That's like, I don't even know where this is going. It just all came out that way.
Yeah, because like as you're reading it and as I'm listening, I'm like in it, and then all of a sudden, like they have what's their plan? They have a mission. Like I was so like, oh, now I'm invested. I want to know more. I love the guardian angel like thing because part of me is kind of like, this girl can't be like a spy or anything. Like she can't need to be arrested. Like I was like, no, not her already. Like I don't even know this character. So yeah, well done, Tina.
Very well done. That the empty spaces line that you had to adjust during, that was a great line. And another
Agreed.
one, full of themselves and the things they wanted to say. Oh my gosh. How often does that describe exactly how I feel in whatever scenario? I'm just like, these people are just full of themselves and the things they want to say. How do you even have any room to eat that plate of food that you have? Anyway, just very, very well written.
Thanks.
I have a relative who just he listens to the conversation just waiting for a break so he can say what he wants to say. Like, and like as you were talking, like that's who I imagined sitting at the table as one of the people. I was just
don't
like,
you sometimes find yourself doing that? Like somebody's talking and like I find this with myself because I have high connectedness. And so
Me
high
too.
connectedness people can be annoying because you think that they're trying to find a better story than you every time you say something. But what they're trying to do is connect with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I have a similar experience and that's going to connect us.
Mm-hmm.
And so then this thing will come in my mind and it'll be like almost feel urgent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I need to say this. I need to tell them about this. And then you find yourself waiting for them to be quiet so you can say it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's one of my faults, but I don't know. I just like felt like that's just you get a whole bunch of people that are like that at one table.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just have a bunch of people trying to talk.
Yeah, but well done because like we all felt that and we felt like we're there. Shell says,
Yeah.
"Ooh, so interesting, great descriptions and a ton of intrigue." Agreed.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Piper says, "Ooh, I love this. I've been that kind of girl hiding in the corners before, but I love the spy vibe at the end." Yeah.
And I love
Oh.
the fact that the guy is dressed super loudly, but that's not him as a person. That's him obviously making choices to be that. Like he's not your typical the guy who wears the Hawaiian shirt, but he's wanting to look like that guy, which I also love because that gives him so much depth to his character that you don't even have to write a lot of words to pick that up. I just loved it.
Yeah, well done.
Thanks.
All right, so we are over time, so we're going to do this quickly. We're going to move on to our final segment, which is the what's next. Tina, we'll go backwards. What's with you? What's next?
I'm going to get my office done and I am going to iterate.
Awesome. Next for me, I am going to pull out my book 4 manuscript and I'm going to do some editing. I'm not even going to get a goal. I'm just going to do some editing and try to fall back in love with that story. That's what I'm doing. Jamie, how about you?
Open my manuscript every day from 10 to 12 and be writerly minded every day that I don't work from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for coming here. Thanks for our live chatters. You know, guys, we love you guys so much.
Yes.
We also love all of you that listen to us as a podcast. If you'd like, reach out to us on social media. We're at Christian Indie Writ just about everywhere. And until next week, when we're going to discuss, again, we're going to go deeper into this subject next week. May your pen be prolific. May your deadlines be met. And may all of your words honor Christ. Bye now.
Bye.